For Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Well, I have no idea where Buddy Martin is, but I'm here, so hopefully he will be joining us momentarily. I don't actually know how this happened, but I think he's testing some new software. So yeah, I guess we will just give it a minute and wait for Buddy to show up. There he is. Yay. I was like, well, I'm hosting Buddy tonight.
Oh my gosh. This has been 55 times I've tried this. Anyway, everybody's online wondering what happened. We have a broken link, okay? Broken link. And Brendan and I have been working on it for an hour and a half. Finally, we figured something out. We got Allie. I know we're running late. I know you got things to do, Allie. So I'm not going to waste your time and go right to the heart of the matter. You've had some really good shows lately. You've had some comments to make about the Gators. We talked a little bit about the legacy part of this, which I think is fascinating. What is going on in your world? And thank you for waiting for us tonight.
No worries. We're 10 days from kickoff. You know, we are inside this 2-week window. There is college football on our TVs on Saturday, which we've made it. There will now be football on our TV, either college or pro, every single weekend until February. So we are very excited in this house. It is officially fall. And I don't think it's too early now for us to start talking about what we think our record is going to be and what we think, is going to happen in these first few games. So, I'm optimistic and hopeful.
Well, and by the way, we got guys standing by. We got Scott Carter, David Moulton, Kevin Brockway. Thank you guys for your patience. We're going to get this thing moving here. Get everybody aboard here in a second. I just wanted to say there's a lot of excitement now building on Miami. I had a chance to spend a half hour with Laura Rutledge the other day, and she is so excited to be coming home. I mean, how good is that for her? She gets to come home as a hero, right? And I'm proud of what she's done. She worked for us at Gator Country. I take no credit for anything she ever did, but I must say that that it was just a joy to have her on and talk to her and see her. And she's flourishing now. So good luck to Laura. And she's going to be, I'm sure, be accused of getting of being a Gator, and being. So I've got somewhere in this amazing thing a short bite from Laura. If I can get it airborne, if not, tell me about what you think is happening right now as we speak in Gainesville, where this program is going. I've got a couple of things here I've read. I want to bounce off of you, and then we'll bring in Scott. First of all, I know it's better. All right, here we go. College Football Kings. All right, I don't know them, but they have a big following. Mm-hmm. And this is what they wrote. There's a long piece. Billy Napier is heading into his third season with the Gators. Dick Tracy. He has 2 full years to look back and has built a roster of his recruits and portal acquisitions. Watch out for the Gators to exceed expectations and surprise a lot of people this fall. Well, all right, that's coming from the outside in. Your thoughts?
Well, I think Vegas has us at what, 4.5 is the over under?
Well, wasn't it 5.5?
5.5.
Well,
We're It's incredibly low. And so if that's what we're using as the barometer for exceeding expectations, I think Florida does better than what Vegas is predicting. So then I guess therefore does exceed expectations. I think Napier has built this roster. This is, 90% at this point, his guys, and he's going to win or lose with guys that he chose to bring into this program. It seems like everybody is 100% bought in. Listening to these guys talk about each other, the relationships they have with the coaches, with their teammates is really encouraging. And I think it's really important that your team is as bounded as ours sounds heading into this season. I think we're going to know a lot after week 1. I think we are, if Florida beats Miami, I think the next few games are winnable. And I think that winning begets winning. So you start off strong. Maybe you pick up a couple that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. If Florida loses, I find it difficult to kind of kickstart the season at that point. But I'm hopeful and I like what I see so far.
The HBC, I know he's done this for political reasons too. He picks them to win 9 games.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a reach.
I mean, listen, if there's anybody that knows Gator football, it's Steve Spurrier, and I absolutely would not argue with him. And I think Gator fans everywhere would be thrilled if we win 9 games this year, particularly with this schedule.
Yeah, so we're getting at actions. Let me just say one more thing, and we'll bring our list of guests out there. They're being backed up here because of our inability to get on the air tonight. Because a broken link. You ever hear that before? Broken link. So there you go. By the way, I just want to put a word in for my people out of Denver for the event being played there, which is the semifinals of the FedEx Championship. And they're playing it at a golf course I know and love, where I worked for 15 years. One of the most gorgeous places you ever saw in your life, Castle Pines Golf Club, which used to have the International, stopped having it in 2007. This golf course is magnificent. I can't wait. I saw it today a little bit. And Billy Horschel has a good record out there. He won at Cherry Hills. And he's hoping he's in the one in the field. So just a shout out to my friends there. So, and just one more thing. The rumor of my demise is greatly exaggerated. Did Mark Twain say that? I had a list of people coming after me the other night on the show. And I wasn't on it. Lauren Meadows hosted it. And it's like, okay. This guy comes in from Texas and said, it's time for Buddy to hang it up. He's stale and dull, whatever. I'm like, well, maybe I am. I don't know. We'll see. And so I got to thank for the people who stood up for me. I don't necessarily need that. But Lauren Meadows was unbelievable what he commented on. And he don't mess with Lauren. He'll call you back. He'll call you out. And he called him out. Don't come in here with that crap. So anyway, I'm here. I'll step down when they take my car keys away, or Brendan turns my lights off, but I'm going to be here for a little bit. And you better get used to me this season, particularly, I think. And because, hey, look, I don't think, well, look, let me take a poll tonight. Let's ask this guy. Scott, is it time for me to hang it up or not?
No, buddy. I like your feistiness, man. I like it. So you sound like you're ready for the season to start. You're going to play Saturday or next week?
I'm ready. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to go. I'm an old QB. Hey, look, I'm just ready to sign a new book contract. Okay. So I'm not over the hill completely.
Nice.
At least one publisher thinks so. So I'm doing that. Anyway, not about me. It's about this beautiful lady on the left here and what she's doing and her work. She's very popular. It's about you, Scott. This is your time. And I know it's getting near because I got my parking pass today.
It is getting near.
Yeah.
Well, you guys saw where Sister Jean turned 105 today.
I didn't see that. Hey, I feel young.
She's still going strong.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, Scott, have you been reading some of this stuff? Like I just read that one thing. And there's, some people think Florida is a great underdog. Many people are saying they're being underrated. I know David Moulton's going over there. We're doing right now, as we're talking about this. He is. But you see all this stuff. I know you like to take the good news to Billy and whatever. How are things measuring out? Because you've been very careful about how you've been pointing this out, and we'll get from from Allie, and then we'll get David in here in a minute, and even Kevin Brockway's waiting. Thank you guys for your opinion. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, I think what you guys were saying earlier. If Florida were to win 9 games this year, I think Billy Napier is going to be a strong contender for National Coach of the Year. I just think that's where they are right now. I think it's moving in the right direction. Is this a year where you can say Florida is going to go from 5-7 to 10-2? I don't think so. But I do think they can be a better team, obviously, in 5-7. I think they're a better team right now than they were when they walked off the field against Florida State last year. But as you guys know, this schedule is one of the toughest in school history, and I can't even begin. I don't really get too excited about most season openers because they're often against Toledo or Central Michigan or whoever. I don't think I've ever been excited about a season opener as this since I've been around, just because it means so much, guys. It's one of those games that if you win, like Allie said, you get confidence. You suddenly start thinking you're good. One win leads to 4 or 5, and then you're sitting good when you head into that tough stretch in November. On the flip side, if you lose, we all know what's going to happen. It is going to be louder than we've heard in a long time. So it's just such an important game. And, it's a tough way to open the season. It's a lot of pressure on everybody in the program. But again, they signed up for this. They love to do this, and they win. I think we could be in for kind of a nice, fun ride. If we lose, it's going to be a tough one. So we'll just have to wait and see. I'm just so glad that we're 10 days away. So finally.
Go ahead, Danny. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying we're here. We've made it. We have survived. But I know, buddy, you don't feel that this game is the most important. And I agree with the concept that the next game is always the most important game. But I just feel like this opener means more than we have seen out of an opener in as long as I can possibly remember. It is going to set the tone for this season, and it's going to set the tone on what we think about Napier as the head coach at Florida. If he wins this game, I think that is monumental for him. I think Mario Cristobal is in such a similar place to Billy Napier, both going into year 3, both guys that are labeled as really good recruiters. Both have maybe underperformed a little bit the last couple of years compared to at least expectations. And whoever wins this game is in the driver's seat for a lot of recruits that are looking at both schools. And, I just think it is so important for Florida to go out and get a win.
Well, look, I mean, that is out of disrespect for Miami. And maybe I'm wrong. I heard you say somewhere, Allie, on one of the shows, I forget where you were on, your podcast, that you talked about how they could possibly win the ACC, and they were stronger up front. And that's all true. I don't really know much about them, but I know that Cam Ward's getting a lot of run. And so far, his practice stats have not been very impressive, which probably means nothing. But I just want to know, when did Miami become Alabama?
Well, I think part of what we're looking at, too, is Miami's schedule. Miami can be mediocre and win 10 games in the ACC, right? I mean, think about had Florida played Miami's schedule the last couple of years. I don't think Napier would be on the hot seat. Mario Cristobal has won one more game than Billy Napier playing
in one of your podcasts. I remember that. Yeah.
Much easier conference. And it's not that Miami is so good that if you beat them, it's like knocking off Alabama. It's more like they're not that good. So if you lose, your program really hasn't taken any steps forward, and we're in year 3. So I almost think you look at it from that point of view. It's not knocking off a juggernaut. It's you setting the tone for your season, knowing that there are many more difficult games than the Miami one coming down the road. So if you can't win that one, it's harder to see where you pick up these wins later on.
That's true. That is true. And so we've dissected this schedule. We're going to bring a David in a second. Stand by, Kevin Brockway. We'll get to you. But let me just say one thing. Happy birthday to Franz Beard. Okay? Today is his birthday. Unfortunately, he's spending it with his sick stepfather. But all the best to you, Franz. And I know you never look better at 49 than now. So keep it up, buddy. All right? So And also my shout out to my man, Kyle Trask, not Kyle Trask, Kyle Curtis. It's funny. Kyle Curtis, I said, you should go to Kyle Field and cover Kyle Trask. There's so many Kyles. Anyway, shout out to him. He graduated. He's getting his feet wet now, a new job. He's going to be out for a while. Welcome back. And the final thing I want to say before I turn it back over to you guys, to rip Paul Finebaum. Okay, you will stand by for that. I'm ripping Paul Finebaum, and I'm ripping him for ripping FSU. Is that this program is brought to you by Meldon Law. You know about them. They're good people. They don't back down. They do good law. They do good stuff with the Gators. And I personally have engaged Meldon Law for a project, and I got to tell you, they're pros. If you need an attorney, I got to tell you, check them out, Meldon Law, and get some of their goodies. They give them away all the time. I've got glasses over here and things like that. Meldon Law, they won't back down. All right, guys, listen up. Paul Finebaum, all right? Paul Finebaum is a friend of mine. I admire what he has done over the years to elevate himself to a really place of stature. I love that he also embraced Laura Rutledge and gave her an opportunity to get started. And now Laura makes 10 times the money he makes. Anyway, I know he sometimes he ticks me off, and sometimes he gets boring. All right, but let me just run this past you. Here's what he said: the pettiness of the Florida State fans never ceases to amaze me. I kind of try to decide who has the most thin-skinned, insecure fan base in the country. And right now, at least going into week 0, I think it's FSU. Is he being petty?
I mean, if it's not FSU, who is it? If there's got to be somebody with the thinnest skin in college football going into week 0, if not Florida State, who?
I can't think of anybody more. They certainly have the longest streak going right now of thin skin. I mean, I understand if I was a Florida State diehard, I would have been very upset last year too. But, you also have the ACC lawsuit, and you have just a lot of stuff going on there that is away from the field and that has gotten so much attention in the last few months. So they certainly have had a bad stretch, I think. But at the same time, we'll see. I mean, they've got They've got a team that a lot of people expect to be pretty good. So maybe they'll get over it soon. But, yeah, it's been an interesting offseason for them.
Well, look, Finebaum's gig is he does this to people. I remember he likes to kind of zing the Gators, although lately he said nice things about them, right? And that's his job. He's like David Moulton. He's a big-time star, and he's got to say critical things like David does. And Finebaum and David and Finebaum, they're kind of interact. Oh, wait a minute, there's David. I'm sorry. Then he was on.
Well, once again, taking shit, and I haven't even done anything. So put me in the same sentence as Paul Finebaum.
You probably deserve it. So
yeah, I'm sure.
David, good to see you. I know it's
Great.
been a rough couple of weeks. Everybody I know is having rough times right now. Scott, you all right?
I hope so. I mean, it's pouring rain outside my house right now, but other than that, I can't complain.
Allie, are you okay?
Yeah, we're just first week of school back. I had my youngest went to VPK this week, which is emotional. My big girls turned 10, which is emotional. My high schooler plays in his first high school football game tomorrow. Life is moving fast in the Wilbur house at the moment.
Have you had people tell you you're over the hill, you should retire?
No, but I have not. But I do turn 40 in 3 weeks, so maybe they will then.
You never know. They turn on you. I like Moulton. He just kind of lays back and is cool. Don't worry about it. He's been through this. He's seen this rodeo. So, all right, David. A lot of glowing comments I just read one from an outside source. I know you get sick of that. And I said, Moulton's probably over there going, as I read it. What's going on, my man? I know you think this team could be halfway decent. You haven't been as critical as you usually are. I don't know why, but you haven't.
Well, obviously I've been very wrong the last 3 years being critical about this program because they've excelled. I mean, come on, buddy. I mean, I'm
I
tired
got
of
it.
being
I got it.
your
All right.
whipping. I'm tired of being your whipping post because I didn't go to
Oh.
Florida. I'm not a season ticket holder, and I'm not wearing pom poms. Okay, but I'll say it again. This is the most talent he's had. Okay, they can go 8-4. They can. There's talent on this team. It's young. It's inexperienced in some spots. A win against Miami would do wonders, I think, for that room. This team needs confidence. This team thinks they can win. They hope they can win, but they need to start winning. And if they do, confidence is contagious. Okay. Of their first 7 games before Georgia, is there a game that you look at on that schedule and go, oh, well, they can't compete tonight? No. They have an experienced quarterback. Okay. They've got to be tired of losing. All right. They screwed up a couple games last year. I mean, for goodness sakes, last year's team should have easily won 7 games. The Arkansas Missouri games alone, despite all of their mismanagement and inexperience and dumb penalties. I mean, to lose those games took real effort to lose those games at the end. I mean, so, they can have a really solid year in the face of all the adversity. They really can. But I do think it starts, and if it doesn't start with Miami, it's got to happen, then it's really got to start, I think, against Tennessee. I mean, they 5-2 minimum, 6-1 in the first 7, but it's doable. It really is doable. I mean, this team, 4 and 5-star players on this team, they have more of them than Florida State. I mean, it's close, but they've got a few more. They have, not quite as many as Miami. But I mean, if you're just looking, despite, Billy getting knocked, and I certainly have thought he should have been better in the transfer portal and he should have moved more quickly. There aren't 20 teams in the country with more talent than Florida, but they're very young in a lot of spots and they have no confidence. And they haven't done it yet. And their schedule is brutal. I mean, if they played Missouri's schedule, we'd be talking about Florida being an outside contender to make the playoff. We really would. And I mean, that's, if that makes me a bad person, then that makes me a bad person.
David, nobody said you're a bad person. I simply said, in fact, I've agreed with you more than I've ever have. You just heard one part of me kidding you about it. All right? Let me let Allie go if she has to go, because I promised her I wouldn't keep her so late. Allie, I'd welcome you to stay as long as you can. I'll let you respond to David if you want to. I'm going to set this one out, let you guys talk about it.
I mean, I think he's right. Like, we are to the point where it's put up or shut up. I love what we've seen this offseason in terms of players and what they have said about their relationships with each other. I think the strength and conditioning program took a major step forward. I think our talent took a major step forward. This roster is a talented roster. There are very few teams that we play that have more talent on their roster. Georgia does. Texas does. I think that you could say LSU probably does.
Ole Miss does.
And
I mean,
Ole
I will say, like,
Miss
the Senior Bowl just released their watch list today, and believe it or not, they have more players from Ole Miss on their watch list than they do even from Georgia and Ohio State. They have 21 players that they think are capable of playing in the Senior Bowl. I mean, Ole Miss is legitimately a top 10 team. We just don't think of them, but I mean, Lane's put together a real talented team.
Yeah. And so 4, I honestly think we have pretty similar talent to Miami, particularly when you look at how long they've been in those programs. And so therefore how long they've been developed at the college level. And I think we're pretty even with talent there. So I think it is a fair statement to say there are 4 teams on this roster that on this schedule that just out and out are more talented than the Gators. So if we've taken the steps that we think we've taken and Florida has improved, that should tell you that they should win close to 8 games, if that's accurate, right? Obviously, Vegas is not predicting that. I think Gator fans would be happy with 8-4. They would see that as progress, but we have talent. That is not the issue. Is it a tough schedule? Yes. There are 3 teams we are playing with a returning quarterback, though. I mean, when you think about the fact that Graham Mertz, if I would have told you last summer that we would be talking about Graham Mertz being, the quarterback, the guy in all but a handful of matchups that we play, and we have the edge because we have Graham Mertz, you would have laughed at me. But that's the position that we're sitting in right now. So I think the biggest question mark is Florida's offensive line. Can they hold it together long enough for Graham Mertz to make plays and for all of the weapons he has around him to make plays? The running back room is stacked. The wide receiver room is stacked. We actually might utilize some tight ends this year. But if the offensive line hasn't improved, I don't know that any of that matters. But talking season's about over. It's time to put up or shut up. And we've heard great things. Now we need to see them.
Scott, jump in there. And Allie, if you have to go, just say when. And we'd love to have you as long as you can stay. All right?
Okay.
Scott?
I don't know if I have a lot more than I've already said in terms of the big picture. To me, momentum is a real thing in sports. And it's, whether it's a game or an off season. Right now, Florida has rebuilt some momentum going into the season. And like I talked earlier in the segment, but if you lose to Miami, it's all gone. It is all gone. But if you beat them, it's the biggest dose of momentum the Gators had on the field. Gosh, do you go back to that Utah Phillies first game? I mean, it will be a long time since Florida fans and their program will have felt if they can beat Miami, because there's a lot of tension around this game, around the big picture of the program, around Billy's future. So that's why I say it's so important, buddy. But yeah, I'm like everybody else. I'm tired of hearing everybody talk about it. I think they are a better team. The roster's better. What's that going to look like record-wise? I have no idea, but I do know that I expect to see a better product on the field. I just hope that, for Florida fans, that it's a better record.
Okay. This last question, at least for Allie, unless she wants to hang again, or David for that, it's past his bedtime. Thank you guys for hanging on. We got a very large audience. I don't know why, because I was half early getting on because of technical problems. I apologize for that. But they want to hear what you guys have to say about this. And there's an inkling by some people that this team is more decent. And we've really just chewed this thing up. We can talk about it all we want to. We've scrutinized the schedule all week, all year. And now we're down to where the rubber meets the road. We talked about the first half, the back half, etc. I made a comment the other day that this could be wrong. But I say it could come down to the FSU game to get bowl eligible. There's a phrase you used to laugh at during the Spurrier days, Allie. Yeah, it's something we're grasping for again all these years later. And rebuilding this program is obviously not all that easy, although Spurrier made it look easy, David.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he's a legend and Billy's not. And, the landscape was totally different then. I hope it doesn't, because I think, quite frankly, that if Billy's 5-6 going into the Florida State game, I think so many people by then will have already rendered their verdict. That I almost wonder if a win, even that nice a win, will save the day. Usually at 5-6, the big money people have made a decision. They're not waiting to see what's going to happen the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So I really hope it doesn't come to that. Let's just worry about August 31st in September. I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot that they can do. And I really just wish the schedule was better. I'm sorry. I'm on Scott Strickland about this. Dude, we saw this coming a year ago. How could you have not seen this coming? I can't believe you've put your coach in this situation with this schedule. That's ridiculous.
Allie, you talk to big money people, and I know you have a sense of what they say. I was told, and by nobody in particular, but someone who's connected, and there's one guy on here who's pretty connected, that Billy just has to be bowl eligible to survive the year, and that they will not get rid of him because they'll lose Lagway. They can't afford to lose Lagway, and that he just has to show progress and not get beaten like a drum and be competitive and come out with a bowl bid. to make it sure he will not be fired? Allie, what do you hear?
I think that bowl eligible is the floor. I do think if he's bowl eligible, more than likely he has a job. But I've said this, all summer long. I think part of it is how it looks, more so even than the final record. If you win the games you should, and you lose the games that you shouldn't, if you line up your squads against each other, I think he's okay. The problem is if you have situations like Arkansas and Missouri last year, where you give the game away. It's your own in-game mistakes that cost you. And I think that will be what Florida fans are looking for. I think that's what donors are looking for. Did you clean that aspect up? If those two games don't happen, we're not sitting here having this conversation. We're talking about how the schedule is hard and, but we've got more talent and we'll see what it is. Nobody's talking about Billy being on the hot seat had he won those two games that they were more than capable of winning last year and that they kind of gave away on a silver platter. So how it looks is going to matter just as much as what the final record is. But I think it's fair to say if you're bowl eligible, Billy Napier is back for year 4, barring some really crazy mishaps in games.
Scott.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and we could talk about this, for hours probably. I look at the big picture in terms of, where the school president is right now. That's had some issues lately. I think that could be something that would factor into the big picture. Schools, especially Florida, it's always been tightened up at the top, and I don't see a new president getting named before a year to 18 months. Obviously, this season is going to be over long before then. So who's going to make that call if you do want to change? I think just from the on-the-field product, I think everything that you guys have said is kind of correct. It's got to look better than it has. I think they can get away with the record being around 500 as long as it looks better. I think a bowl is important. But also think, if you finish 5-7, you lose 3 or 4 close games that maybe other teams won, you didn't necessarily lose them. Maybe he can survive it. I think it's really to me crucial for the program that you don't have to make another coaching change after this year. Unless you've got one guy who you really know, we all know who that name is. He's playing at the Swamp this year. If that happens, it happens. But I really hope that it works out for Billy. I think he's doing a lot of good things, but the record and what you guys are talking about, how it looks, will determine it. David was going to chime in there.
No, I mean, I do think sometimes we have to think forward. We're so worried about now, and you hinted at, a coaching change, and who would it be? I mean, besides Lane Kiffin, I'm not blowing this thing up. Okay, because also I think Lane's the only guy that maybe could keep DJ from not transferring. Also, so this would have to go badly in my world to blow this up. I'm willing to live with, Lou Holtz's first year at Notre Dame was 5-6, but they lost so many close games against a brutal schedule. And, if that's the kind of year that Billy has, I would like to think that people would realize how close they are, and most everybody's coming back, and a 5-star is going to jump in and, let's go. The schedule can't be this hard again. Let's go. But, this is college sports and crazy things happen. Sanity usually doesn't prevail.
That's very true. And I've said this before too. I mean, I don't think people realize how bare the talent was when he got here. I was out there some practices and, a lot in the last couple of years. And I've been to really good Florida football practices, and I just didn't see hardly a handful of players who I felt even belonged at Florida. I see a lot more of those guys now. So, there's a lot of stuff like that doesn't necessarily get talked about. We look at the final numbers and they're not pretty, the win-loss record, but it was a real rebuilding job when he got in. I mean, it wasn't just slap some lipstick on it. Now, if they have to make a change, it'll be a lot easier for the next coach. I can tell you that.
Just win, right? Let's go into Miami. It's August 31st. Win, and then you take it one game at a time. But if Florida beats Miami, they probably go into Neyland Stadium 5-0, 4-1, something like that, with some momentum behind them. And if you can figure out a way to beat Tennessee, which I think it would be an upset to beat them up there, think about the momentum that would bring back to the Swamp. And what a nice little push that would be going into Murderers Row that happens after Kentucky.
We just mentioned this. I know it's not necessarily the cogent thought, but something tells me if they do get 5-1, which is possible, it's not a guarantee. Tennessee's going to be tough. You mentioned it. They got some winnable games. They win their games and most of their games at home, and win them in the first 5-6 games of the season, and then they go to the Bataan Death March. If they get to 5 wins and they beat a good team in the back half, let's say like Ole Miss or whoever, not Georgia, but realistically, and then they come into the FSU game with a chance to have a winning season, that changes. Something about the fact that the underdog role seems to be play in their favor, and it has in Florida football since I've been watching it. The problem is they've been such underdogs that nobody can pick them. Now they are pickable, and some people in the national media, Allie, you've heard them, are jumping on that bandwagon. I've heard 9-3, I've heard 8-4. No, not me, not the homer, but I've heard this. So why are they doing that? Why, if they don't believe sincerely that something? And here's the other thing, and I'll sign off with this, let you guys wrap it up. And we've got Kevin Brockway coming on. They see something. Oh, here's something. Not that much has changed. The recruiting looks really good, especially for 2025 now. It's starting to pick up. There is stuff going on that we hear about. The legacy part of this, getting the players they've gotten here that are going to be on the field this year. I mean, Miles Graham, et cetera, et cetera. There's some really good things coming out about some of the players they got now. The safety, what's his name? The new safety they're talking about. I don't know. I just think you got to steal one in the back half of the season and take your chances. And then you, like Coach Spurrier says, if he hadn't beaten Clemson, he would never got the Florida job. So I'm going to leave it at that, and let's go around the table. Let's start with Allie and then go on to Scott and David to get your reactions to that. While I tell them, first of all, thank you to our sponsors, TitanMRI.com. If you need an MRI, good place to go in Gainesville. They make it a reasonably good experience for MRIs. They'll take cash or card if you don't have insurance. They'll also make you a custom-made appointment, nights, weekends to accommodate you. So check them out, TitanMRI.com. Allie?
If you're asking me to respond to why the national media is suddenly high on Florida, I think that Florida has said the right things, in their press opportunities. I think the word out of practice, the things that leak out are positive. And I think they know it's a do or die time for Coach Napier. And so or at least that it's painted that way. And so I think there's probably something that brings clicks by talking about that this team that Vegas says is only going to win 5 games is actually going to win 9 or 10 games. And, that moves the needle for them numbers wise too. But, they've said all the right things. Now we need to see them do all the right things. And I don't know that there's a whole lot more to be said. We've laid out exactly what they need to do. I don't think just being bowl eligible is that monumental of a goal. I think it's achievable for this team. And I think that gets Billy Napier year 4. And we continue to see how this builds. And, we do have to stop turning and burning coaches every 2.5 to 3 years if we think the person is building the right way. There are only so many coaches out there, like you guys have already said. And at some point, it devalues the program when you are always firing somebody every 2.5 to 3 years. Who's going to want to take the job if that's the case, But again, just win. Go out August 31st, beat Miami.
Well said, Scott. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say defend the Swamp. I think Billy's 9-4 at home.
Like that.
Win the games you're supposed to.
I mean, think about it. Even if they're a slight underdog against Miami, but Miami, Sanford A&M, boom, 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 home, home, home. I mean, this is the Gators. It's the swamp. It's going to be 412 degrees. Okay, they should be 3-0. They really should. Here's the other thing. Do I think Miami is more talented than Florida? I do. Not at the quarterback position. He does not have a good record on the road. Okay, I don't think he's ever won a game in the environment that he's going to play in on August 31st. All right.
He's not going to play in an environment like that the whole rest of the season that's as big as that either. And it's
right.
One in a Canes jersey.
And so then, if they win their 3 home games, they go to Starkville. Then a bye week, come back, UCF and Kentucky, sandwiched in between Tennessee. I mean, if they just defend the swamp, and win in Starkville, they're 6-1 heading to the Georgia game. Defend the damn swamp. Okay? If they do that, this season will be a good year. They'll play LSU and Ole Miss back-to-back at home with house money if they just defend the swamp.
Yeah.
Scott.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what they're saying right now, if you do start off good at home, I think they can get off to a really good start. To your question about why the national media is suddenly liking the Gators, that's a mystery, buddy. I mean, I think we're at that point of the year where about every other opinion has been passed on. So now maybe, Florida's going to be good this year. Maybe they're at that point in their discussions. But I think also there's a lot of national media. I was out in Dallas at SC Media Days. I know a lot of these guys, and we were talking to several. And I mean, Billy Napier is liked within the national media. He's liked within the coaching circles. I mean, I think people want to see this thing go well. At least a lot of them do, because, you like to see good people have success when they're doing things the right way. And he's as normal of a football coach and treats the media about as well as probably any coach in the country. So maybe that has a factor. I don't know. But I just hope they're right, buddy. That's all I know.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, I think. Don't you, David? Good season, good year to be a football fan.
Well, I really think this could be like an avalanche. I hate to put because they beat Utah in that first game 2 years ago, and then they beat Tennessee at home last year. And I thought we all, thought that this will be a springboard for. But man, it's difficult to imagine that if they beat Miami, that it doesn't have real legs to it. It just really is.
Yeah. Good job, guys. Who could say who's got to go? I know, Allie, you got to get out there. Thank you. I'm sorry I kept you so long. And
that's all right, guys.
All you guys are early risers, and everybody wants to go home, I know. Good show. A lot of good comments. Nice sized crowd. Good job, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Scott, good seeing you.
All right. Same to you, David. Take care, guys.
All right. Stand by. We got to go Kevin Brockway. And Scott, good night. Thank you. And let's see if Kevin's still there. Well, I hope so. He's had to wait a long time. Let's see if he's there. He is.
Buddy, how are you?
I'm not good. I've had a difficult time getting this link to work tonight. We got started late. Thank you for standing by so long.
That was a great roundtable. It's a shame that I couldn't sneak in there. You feel old when you see Allie Wilbur and you realize that you covered her husband, right, when he was a punter at the University.
I
almost 20 years ago.
Her grandma, I've covered a lot of it as her relatives. She's had a bunch of them, including 1950s when her grandfather played for the golden era. So anyway, yeah, it's good. She does a good job. Kevin, I'm so glad that you waited because I have a lot to ask you about. You put up some really good tweets. I want to talk a little bit about hoop because it's getting close to that. And you're a very active person who gets out to practice a lot. So let me ask you about this. What is impressing you? What you've heard? You don't get to see too much, but we all heard a little buzz about this, that, and the other. What's the deal? What do you see coming out of there?
Yeah, I think we see that, Graham Mertz, first of all, is the guy. He's the quarterback for sure. There have been some guys here and there that are flashing camp. I think Shamir Dike has looked very good. Marcus Burke has had a good camp as well, wide receiver. And I think he's a guy that, Billy has talked about as a guy that, maybe wasn't with the program, but has gotten a little better, in terms of that. And Trey Wilson and Khalil Jackson have been consistent. The guy you're hearing about a lot on defense is Pup Howard, Grayson Howard. And I think he's the guy. I think he is a guy that's going to bring a little bit more short tackling, which certainly was an issue last year, for sure. And I think that, when you look at the 2 false scrimmages, 5 takeaways, I know you guys were talking about Cam Ward before. I think that's going to be critical. I think, at the Swamp, what a better way to get momentum than to create a few turnovers, which was a huge problem last year, buddies. Only 7 forced turnovers last year, last in the SEC, only 3 interceptions. And you can make an argument that that's why Corey Raymond is gone right now, is that, and certainly that's been a huge offseason emphasis, the ability to take the ball away. And so those are some of the main things that we're hearing. Obviously, offense, a really good first fall scrimmage, defense, a better second fall scrimmage. They forced 3 takeaways. Tyreek Sapp had a pick 6 in that second defensive scrimmage. I know he was pretty excited about that and fired up about that. So I think that there are some good things coming out of camp. I mean, the other thing that we heard from Billy is a little bit of an encouraging update on Montrell Johnson Jr. in terms of his status, that he could maybe return to limited practice in camp this week. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him in the Miami Open, or maybe on a pitch count, maybe only about 10 carries. And I do know that they're certainly high. It's opened up some opportunities from other backs, and Katie Daniels, Jaden Ball, and Jacoby Jackson, the transfer from the JUCO transfer from Pensacola Catholic High School, all have had really good camps.
A lot of talk about this depth of the running back position. Oh, you mentioned one. There's 3 guys. Jaden Ball is a guy I love because he's big. He certainly ought to be able to defend the blitz, and he can run the football. I don't know if he catches the ball well or not. He's got great moves for a big guy. I had an argument with Shane last weekend about his size. And Shane said he's not that big. I said, wait a minute. He's 6 feet, 230 pounds. And Shane said, no way. I said, Shane, I'm reading off the roster.
Yeah.
Or 227 now, maybe. I don't know. I noticed him in the spring game. There are very few guys that stick out to me like that in a game. I don't have to see them do everything. I just see things I like. Ever since I saw Richard Trapp play on the field, like, okay, that guy I like. And I just think he's got the tools, and he's just a freshman. He's a guy I think it could really be a key. Now he won't be the go-to guy on the running plays. Probably Trav Webb will be. What about those 4 guys in the back? They're kind of pretty heavy in that running back department.
The other thing Billy Napier alluded to too with the freshman backs, as promising as they are, doing the things, that don't involve carrying the ball, right? Picking up blitzes, so forth. That's something that they're going to need to continue to prove. And, it was a big reason why Trevor Etienne got in Billy's doghouse at times last year, was because he didn't do necessarily those things at a high level. So I think that's one of the keys, for Jaden Baugh and Katie Daniels to see the field. They're going to have to show that they can do that they can catch the ball out of the backfield. But, you're not the only one who noticed, Jaden Baugh. Ernest Graham, if you remember, put out a tweet, and certainly as a running back there, he's an opinion respect, talking about his field vision, just his ability to see the field. He thought was tremendously advanced as a freshman. I remember doing a story on that.
Yeah.
So you're not alone in your assessment of Jaden Baugh in terms of, the chance, the ability to be special. And it looks like they've stocked that room pretty well. Since Etienne left, there was probably a lot of concern about the running back position with him leaving, but I think they feel pretty optimistic. I see someone was asking about Asa Turner as well. He's another guy in defense, hard hitter, who has had a really good camp and was one of my, 5 newcomers to watch. He was among he and Grayson Howard, I think, on the defense will make a difference with the tackling. But, it's interesting. When I was listening to Roundtable too, one of the things, when you're talking about the second half of the season, I think it's the depth. I mean, that's the big question mark, because if you remember last year, when you lose a guy like Shamar James, who's your most short tackler on the defense, that led a total tailspin on that side of the ball. And I think that's a big question. Is this team deeper? And I also think that, the other question is player development. You have 14 starters returning a year older. Let's see if they're a year better. Let's see what kind of player development. I think this will be a big kind of, testament this season on Billy Napier and his ability to develop players. I want to see if guys that have been in the program 2 or 3 years get better.
Asa Turner, that's the guy I was trying to remember. A lot of good things about him, and who people are talking about him are the players, how hard he hits.
Yes.
Talk about him.
Khalil Jackson said, you have to make sure your mouthpiece is in when you cross the field with him. So that gives you a little indication. Yeah. And you need that. You need a little physicality there. I think that's an area where they were lacking. I mean, if you looked at last year with the missed tackles, a lot of missed tackles were in the secondary. So you want a guy like that. And then at the star position too, you got Aaron Gates and Sharif Denson as well. I think Turquoise Bridges, another newcomer from Oregon, will be in the mix there too. I think you got a little depth there, and you got a new coach in Will Harris, who I think that he goes out and he gets tackled as well, right, with the team. He goes out there during the tackling drills and is not afraid to take a hit. So I think he set a physical tone starting from the spring, and that's going to be very important because you and I both know, buddy, with the SEC. I mean, it's such a physical league, and you're going to need that physicality. Particularly in the second half of the season when you're playing some of the big boys like Georgia and LSU and Texas, some of those, bigger, stronger teams, you're going to have to be able to match the intensity and the physicality. And maybe the new strength coach too, Tyler Miles, they do look a little more physically mature, and perhaps that could play into some positive things on that side of the ball as well.
Everybody's talking about the new coaches on defense.
And I mean, Gerald Chapman is another guy who's interesting. Yeah, he's got a little mean streak to him, which I think might be good, right, for defensive line. Yeah. I think Sean Spencer was kind of a little more of a big teddy bear type. And I think Chapman is setting that kind of tone where he's not going to put up with much nonsense. You've seen that in the defensive line drills. Obviously, losing Jamari Lyons is a little bit of a blow in terms of the depth of that defensive line. That certainly hurts with the broken ankle, for sure. But I think they feel pretty good about Joey Slackman. They feel good, obviously, about Caleb Banks and Cam Jackson. And we'll see about Des Watson, how many snaps he can last. He's lost a little bit of weight. Is he all the way there yet? I don't know. And the edge position, too, will be interesting with Justice Boone and Tyreek Sapp and maybe some of the younger guys. LJ McCray, you haven't heard too much about him. But TJ Searcy, Kelby Collins, obviously kind of a tweener. You can play him inside and out a little bit. Cameron James, Jack Pyburn. You do have some depth there as well, and some different guys that you can play with. They've even converted Weston there as well. So I think that's
a conversation about Weston. Why?
Yeah, he's such a great athlete. I mean, he bench presses 500 pounds. He's one of the strongest guys on the team. So Jamarcus Weston is someone that I think that, and he's kind of stuck it out. He's a 6-year guy. He could have transferred. Billy Napier really loves him on special teams as well as a gunner. His physicality, he sets a good example. Billy Napier thinks he has a future in the NFL as a special teams guy, but also as an edge rusher, he's intriguing because of his strength and size and his wingspan a little bit. He's bounced around. He started at wide receiver, went to the secondary last year, and now he's at the edge, and he's kind of bulked up a little bit. He's up to 235, 240 pounds. So maybe it'll work from there.
Yeah, I think Kevin Brockway sharing his knowledge, dropping knowledge on you tonight. The linebackers are really apparently making some noise. Pub Power's being talked about. It's a group of linebackers. I love Derek Wingo. He may not be physically as gifted or heavy, leadership, but whatever. They've got some speed and strength there, and especially with new ones. Talk about the linebackers.
Yeah, and RJ Moten moved there too from the secondary, which is probably a good move, given and bulked up a little bit. And he's had a decent, staff, and he's a veteran guy, and his father, obviously, Ron Moten, played linebacker. Jaden Robinson is another guy, sophomore from Lake City, who certainly has flashed at times in camp. So, and the two young guys, Aaron Childs and Miles Graham. Aaron Childs is a really athletic guy.
Freak, they call him a freak. Why?
They call him a freak, and he power cleaned 315 pounds. And I did a story on him over the winter and talked to Jelani Jenkins about him. Jelani Jenkins was kind of mentoring him in Maryland. only school. And as you remember, Jelani was a fairly talented receiver here, a linebacker here, about a decade ago, who went on to play in the NFL. So I think he's got, certainly some ability at Under Armour All-American. Same with Miles Graham. Certainly the offseason surgery set him back a little bit, but he's going to be in the mix. And they have some guys. They have a little bit of depth there, but I think Shamar and Pup Howard are really going to be the two guys that you lean on in the beginning, and Derek Wingo, certainly a veteran guy that will be in the mix as well.
Yeah, good report there. Very well done. I know you like basketball. You cover it a lot. By the way, just full disclosure, Kevin's a graduate of Miami. Okay, I just want to put that out there. It's never
you looked at anybody.
It's never affected his way he covers these sports. He's
I appreciate it.
Right down the middle guy. He gives it to you straight, doesn't sugarcoat it, but he's also not a negative nabob, as they used to call him. So just so that's out there. But hey, so what? All right, so let's talk hoop. I got a picture in the mail. I'm gonna run it next week. Mike McGinnis, the official, right?
Yeah.
Probably 6 feet. He played ball, a little bit of ball, whatever. Somebody took him in practice and put him with the four bigs.
Yep.
I swear to you, and more people thought it was really you can't say the word him anymore, a little person. He looked like he was 4 feet tall. These guys are huge.
Well, was Oliver Ryu in the picture? That's a 7'9" kid, certainly the walk-on who makes everyone, he makes Ruben Chanelu look small, and Ruben is 6'10", or 6'11". No, they've got some size. Listen, buddy, certainly, and that plays well, and that's the way Todd Golden likes to build it. The rebounding, I thought that was the number one area that he addressed really well last year, was the rebounding. I mean, they went from being one of the worst rebounding teams in the SEC in his first year to one of the best. And he did that through, I think, recruiting, through size. He went out, he got guys that could rebound. He got Tyrese Samuel. He brought in Alex Condon, a freshman. He brought in, got Micah Hand-Logden, who, obviously, had the really bad compound fracture at the end of the season. And I think that injury really hurt them obviously in the NCAA tournament game. Just not having that 4-player post rotation, which I think is tremendously important, and what Todd wants, with Thomas Houck, with Alex Condon, and this year he'll have Sam Alexis, another guy, excellent rebounder, and Ruben Chanelu, who is long wingspan, a lot of promise. I think a guy that could impact at the rim a little bit, give him a little shot blocking as well. So they got the bigs for sure. And they've also got some talent in the backcourt, but do they have a pure point guard? I mean, I think that's the huge question mark. And can Walter Clayton be a point guard? I mean, I think he's a combo, but 93 to 80 assist to turnover ratio last year. You just wonder how steady he can be with the basketball. And if not, do you go to Denzel Aberdeen? How much do you go to Denzel? And if you anoint Denzel Aberdeen as your starter, then what do? Do you bring Will Richard off the bench? Do you bring Elijah Martin off the bench, who I thought 2 years ago, the transfer from FAU, was Dusty May's best player on that Final Four team. He's a tremendous talent. And he's a guy, 6'2", 215, that's built like a running back. This guy he's big, he's strong, he's athletic. He's going to bring a lot to the table as well. So they've got, I think, a pretty complete roster. I'll just be fascinated to see how Todd Golden deploys it.
I'd play Denzel Aberdeen just because of his name. I've always loved that name. He had that one phenomenal game last year. Wow. Remember that?
Yes. And he's bided his time. And Torian Green told me his freshman year, he said, Denzel he's a worker, and I really like his upside. And if he continues to work and continues to progress, he's going to be good. And Torian, I respect his basketball opinion, of point guard of 2 national championship teams. You got to respect that opinion. And Torian was right. Torian's been one of the guys that's really worked with him. So I'm excited to see his progress next year. And I think he's a guy that's definitely going to contribute, maybe as a 6th man and the point guard off the bench. But he's going to have a more expanded role next year. And I think he'll be tremendously important to to Florida's success and coming up this year, because it's going to be, listen, just like football, you bring in Oklahoma and Texas, that's no walk in the park. Porter Moser is a very good coach at Oklahoma. Hasn't necessarily caught yet, but they're improving. Rodney Terry, Texas, always has plenty of talent there. So it's going to be a harder league next year.
Okay, final thing. The guys, I wish I had the picture handy. I'll run it tomorrow. It's a phenomenal picture. Mike's about 6 feet, 6'1". All right, former official. He was standing next to Thomas Hall, Micah Handgloden, Oliver Rio, is it pronounced? Rio?
Yeah, Rio. Yeah, he's a 7'9" kid. Yeah.
Alex Condon. Get this. 6'9", 7'1", 7'9", and 6'11". No wonder he looked like he was 2 feet high, right?
Yes, that's a mountain range there. When you stand Micah next to Oliver and you realize that Oliver's 8 inches tall. Now Oliver is not probably going to contribute that much this year. He's more of a developmental guy. But certainly his size makes him very well talked about. Yes.
Amazing.
Unbelievable.
Listen, Kevin, I can't thank you enough for waiting for us to get through our technical problems and bringing us such good information. I love it when you do that. Appreciate you coming on. Hope you'll keep coming on with me, buddy. I like your stuff.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime, buddy. You know that.
Kevin's done a terrific job at Gainesville Sun, and when he goes out to work a beat or whatever on a story, you guarantee he's going to bring stuff back to you. A lot of stuff you won't see because there's insights and experience, and he's also very clever and quick. So, Kevin, have a good night, brother. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Appreciate it, buddy.
All right. Kevin Brock, we're reading the Gainesville Sun. Well, folks, it's been an adventuresome night. We sit here with our largest audience of the year. Go figure. We started out, we couldn't get the broken link to work, but you were so patient. Our guests were so patient. I mean, Allie stayed for way longer than she wanted to, and it was a really good roundtable. And Kevin, what can I tell you? Where do you get better straight information than that? Well, Kevin. Now, we're going to keep trying to get these technical issues with YouTube worked out because we know it's going to work. Thanks to Brendan Martin tonight for all his help and for all you. And thank you to our sponsors who make this possible. They're some great people. And I want to single out Renstar Medical Research because they are so many levels. They're superb. They do, first of all, great work in their city. They're a stakeholder in downtown. They do good things. There's some great people I know there as friends. The terrific story that we don't tell you about is the fact that the two people who started Renstar went to high school together. Mary Brantley and Joe Sorrentino. And what's interesting is that Mary, of course, is married to Scott Brantley, the great Scott Brantley. I love Scott Brantley, and I pray for his health. He's a tremendous person, and he has a terrific Scott Brantley trophy, which we give away every year to the best high school player in 6 counties. And then Joe, of course, his son, Joey, was a defensive back for Urban Meyer and was a great special teams player. But more importantly, they want me to tell you, do the right thing. And if you can volunteer for one of their clinical trials, you'll be helping yourself, be helping your community. Go to renstar.net and find out about it because it's pretty simple to do. If you qualify, and they have all kinds, arthritis, migraines, whatever, you can get involved and maybe get compensated for time and travel. And you'll help them get some data that they'll be able to send off to a major company to does this kind of thing and be able to get better read on what we need for treatment to our ailments. All right. So check out renstar.net. Do the right thing. And if you can, take part in what they do. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. And once again, thank you for you folks tonight for hanging in there. Thank you to ours. Don't we have great guests on this show? I mean, I might be over the hill probably, but I don't have to worry about it. The people that grace this show are phenomenal. And you saw some tonight, and we can't thank you enough for what the quality of people that we get here. And of course, our sponsors, Meldon Law, TitanMR.com, and Renstar, all. back tomorrow night with Ben Troop, Orange Blue Bloods, other people. We have a good show for you. I do have an interview with Laura Rutledge, which you're going to enjoy. And we'll put part of that up tomorrow night and be bringing you more and more stuff from there. So have a great night. We're late tonight, but the show has been worth it. Take care.